Hello everybody, welcome back to Ghostly Furnished Toast, and today we're talking about the Putrescent Night of all things. You know, we're back to Elden Ring, where we are back on the grind set mindset type thing. So enough dialing around, we're going to dive on in. So the basics of the Putrescent Night is a boss in Elden Ring, more specifically a part of the Shadows of the Erdtree DLC, which is he's one of the more forgettable bosses in the DLC, but he's a very interestingly designed boss, I think. I think the most interestingly designed boss in the game, I would say. Protects Saint Trina. So for context, Saint Trina's at the bottom of this hole, and this little doodad, he's guarding Saint Trina, if that doesn't describe it. And if you also look, he's an undead boss, he's a skeleton dude. He's basically two different enemies as one character. So what I mean by that, we have the horse, but we also have the rider. So very similar to a different boss in the game that we're going to discuss later. That has very similar connections to, like, kind of parallels this fight. So talking about Putrescent itself, so we know the Putrescent's knight is a knight, but we also know that he's made of Putrescents. So it's older than the Golden Order itself. So I feel like a lot of confusion is, oh, maybe this Putrescent comes from the Glowmine Queen. No, it does not come from the Glowmine Queen specifically. Because this was before Death was taken out of the Elden Ring. Comes from the coffins all around, as the name implies, coffin fissure. These coffins, we have no idea where they came from. They just kind of just showed up here. My personal theory is they attract, so we know from the pillar, middle of the map, that it brings, the Land of Shadow brings all forms of death. So I think these coffins were just kind of drawn to the energy that was kind of like radiating out of the land of Shadow. So I think we don't know exactly where it came from, but I think that's the reason they're here. Ghost Flame, basically, so talking about what Putrescence is, it's Ghost Flame, and it burns corpses into this Putrescence-like sludge. So in the thing with Ghost Flame's taken care of by grave birds. And that's why we see in the fight these blue flames that give frostbite, all that. Those are ghost flames. Even though it's not like grave birds that take care that like are in the fight like a grave bird style of like ghost flame, it's still ghost flame nonetheless. So as mentioned before, the Putrescent's Knight guards Saint Trina, which is basically the other half of Miquella, deals with this kind of sleep kind of thing. So even though Miquella deals with more faith, religion, that kind of thing, fundamentalism, she deals with sleep. She's basically dying due to the separation that was caused by Miquella. And her body's kind of blooming in a way where it's kind of evolution, but she's just, in the grand scheme of things, she's dying. And she doesn't really want Miquella to become a god. So she's this corpse of herself, and she was forcibly removed, and that's why I think it's similar to Melania and the Outer Rock God that live basically within each other, where the Outer Rock God blooms to come alive. And I think this is kind of vice versa, the separation, where Saint Trina is technically some kind of god who's dying. So I think it's kind of that life and death cycle, similar to Melania. So the creation of the Putrescent Knight itself. So we got Saint Trina, and we got all this Putrescence that's oozing out to the bottom of this hole. So what do you think happens when these Putrescence comes in contact with this hole? They make a baby, if you will. They make some ooze created the night itself, and this night, quote unquote, grants the eternal slumber given by Saint Trina. And that's a very interesting thing to note, because we know in the files, which we're going to talk about later, that it was originally named the Gloam-Eyed Queen Knight. Similarities to Radahn. So we know that Miquella and Melania, or Miquella and Saint Trina, basically were split, right? They're two separate entities, and they went on two on different paths. So something very interesting. They both obey parts of Miquella. What I mean by that is you have Radahn basically in control by Miquella, and you have Saint Trina in control of the Putrescent Knight. They both were brought back from the dead, because we know the Putrescent Knight is a bunch of dead corpses basically brought back to life due to Saint Trina's nectar. Both ride some kind of sort of steed, and it's kind of funny that the Putrescent Knight, it's kind of just the skin of the horse, while the bones are the rider. I think that's a very interesting thing to think about. Both are under control, as stated earlier. One's at the bottom of the world and the other's at the top. The lowest point in Elden Ring to the highest point in Elden Ring. I think that's a very symbolic thing. And as mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Glowmide Queen and how I don't really think the Glowmide Queen connects to the Putrescent Knight very well. So, name of the file was Glowmide Queen Knight. It's dead skeleton. I can see the similarities that people were drawing: death, dead, whatever. Glowmide Queen is destined death. I don't know if it's true, because the Glowmide Queen came with the Golden Order. When death was removed from the Golden Order, that's when the Glowmide Queen. And we know that the Putrescent Knight came after. Putrescence itself came before the Golden Order. So I think the Putrescent Knight wasn't really serving Saint Trina, but I think the original intent was to have the Glowmide Queen down there. And I think that would have been before, maybe like if God was the final boss, because there's definitely some changes in the DLC to what the original intention was, which I think is a very interesting dynamic to look about. And I think I may do like a dive into like, what if the DLC was changed a little bit? So yeah, that's it for this time. I'll see you guys next time on Ghostly French Toast. Bye-bye.